What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm going to do a match reaction to the game that finished today in the Premier Sports Cup League Cup final. Celtic 3, Rangers 1 at Hampden Park. Martin O'Neill winning an Old Firm game for the first time in over 20 years with a 3-1 victory over Danny Rohl's Gers at Hampden Park. To be honest, I'm not surprised. I had a funny feeling Celtic were going to win today under Martin O'Neill. I didn't watch the game, but I see the highlights and was listening to it on the radio as well. And yeah, quite a mixed game. I thought Celtic were the better team in the first half, and the highlights that I've seen, I thought Rangers were better in the second. And then I think in extra time, Celtic's dominance shone through. There's a lot of controversial refereeing decisions, which I will get onto. But yeah, Martin O'Neill, he's probably over the moon, you know, to win an Old Firm game for Celtic. I do think Celtic were the better team from what I've seen, the chances and things like that. Rangers had their moments as well. You know, it was a pretty even game, but I think Celtic just about edged it. But yeah, you know, Celtic, I think they were just more clinical as well. You know, Rangers had plenty of opportunities and didn't take them. But the game started, from what I've heard, I've seen for the highlights, Celtic started a better side. Celtic were proper on the front foot. Celtic, you know, Maida had a chance in the first few minutes, which he fluffed his lines, and it was saved by Butland. Celtic then thought they took the lead. You know, I've no idea what Gers was doing. You know, Gers, for Rangers, a big centre-back, he was an absolute bomb scare. He was getting absolutely roasted by Tanecki. And then when Forrest came on from the highlights, he was getting away from Gers at times easily as well. You know, he's not been a good signing for Rangers, Gers, by the looks of it. But yeah, he made a complete hash of it from crossing to the box. Hit Raskin and went in past Butland into the corner. And Celtic thought they were 1-0 up. But Dives and Maida was in an offside position. It was so close. You know, it was very tight. You know, Gers was literally the reason why it was so close. But yeah, Celtic, you know, it didn't get the rub of the green there, and it was offside. Celtic did take the lead, and it was Johnny Kenny. Johnny Kenny, from the highlights I've seen, he was fantastic today. Apparently he played really well. Apparently he gave the Rangers defence all sorts of issues with his movement and hold-up play as well. But Johnny Kenny got the goal. Ball comes into the box. Magona, what on earth is he doing? You know, if you're a Rangers fan, you'll be so disappointed with Jaden Magoma. He's good going forward, but he's so poor defensively. But yeah, easily pushed off the ball by Johnny Kenny. John Suter as well was easily pushed out of it. It's a great header, what a header by Johnny Kenny. And so we'll 1-0 up. Fully deserved it as well from the first half display. You know, Celtic, Rangers run to the cosh as well. Rangers did have their chances. There was Chimiti had a chance. You know, it's a really good ball from Diamande into the box. Chimiti should have scored. Really poor defending from Celtic. You know, Liam Scales let his man go. Chimiti put it wide. He's not been a good signing so far for Rangers. Very poor from Chimiti. You know, he should have scored and he didn't. Raskin had an opportunity. Really good ball from Danilo. Around the corner. You know, Raskin got him. It was a really good save by Schmeichel. It really was a really good save from Schmeichel to keep Celtic in front. Asgard then got sent off for a shocking tackle on Anthony Ralston. You know, it was a foul. It was a red card, no doubt about it. You know, Ralston Asgard chips the ball up in the air. You know, he then goes to challenge the ball with Ralston. You know, Ralston comes out on top, but you see Asgard's foot smashing to the upper part of Ralston's thigh. It's a red card. You know, the referee gave it straight away. Definite red card for Theo Asgard. He had to go off. Not been great. I've not been impressed with him from the highlights that I've seen. I think he's a very lazy player, but I'm not a Rangers fan, so what would I know? But, you know, from the highlights that I've seen, I don't think he looks that great, to be honest. But yeah, Rangers were a man down and a goal down. Celtic, I think, should have been reduced to 10 men just for half-time. I'll be honest, I think Austin Trusty got away with one for a foul on Jack Butland. I have no idea what Austin Trusty was doing. You know, it looked like he kicked Jack Butland in the face. You know, I have no idea what he was doing. I think that should have been a red card to make it fair for in terms of a stamp on. So I think the referee had a shocking game today. Thought he let a lot of decisions go. It It was really, really meaty in terms of challenges. You know, not just from Celtic players, you know, Rangers players as well. Raskin committed a lot of fouls, you know. Maida as well. Maida was tenacious as ever, but he did give away a lot of free kicks as well. But yeah, Celtic, you know, should have been further in front, and they weren't. It was very disappointing. But in terms of not in terms of performance in the first half, so Celtic were fantastic from the highlights that I've seen. I think Celtic were a better side at half time. Second half begins. I think Rangers were the better team. I think Celtic, I don't know what happened. I think Celtic weren't as fluent in the second half. The Rangers looked really dangerous as well every time they got the ball. I think Celtic had an opportunity from a corner which Butland saved. That was really unlucky. You know, Rangers, though, were really threatening in the second half. You know, really dangerous. And then Rangers got a penalty right towards the end of the second half when it looked like Celtic were going to see it out and go through to the final. Rangers get a penalty. You know, it's Ralston. I don't have a clue what he's doing. You know, it's a penalty. You know, Ralston literally throws himself to the ground, you know, but his arms out away from his body to make himself look bigger, I think. You know, it's very disappointing from Ralston. It was a penalty. Guess it was really poor from Ralston. James Taberner stepped up and Rangers were level. You know, Rangers, I think, probably deserved to be level with a balance of play in the second half. I don't think Celtic were great until the last 10 minutes. I thought they really came into it I think Celtic were the only team trying to win it towards the end, you know, of normal time. You know, second half begins in extra time, and it was all Celtic. Celtic, you know, took over again as a better team, you know, and Celtic went in front, you know. What a goal from Callum McGregor, you know, fantastic. I think Jack Butland could have done better, though. You know, Jack Butland is straight down the middle, but it's a great strike from McGregor. You can't take anything away from McGregor. You know, it's a really, really good strike from him, you know, straight into the middle of the goal, and Celtic were 2-1 up. You know, Jack Butland would be very disappointed. Butland saved a header as well. You know, that was really unlucky. James Forrest hit the bar for Celtic as well. You know, Celtic should have been further in front. Yeah, it's really, really unlucky from James Forrest. I think that was a normal time before he got to extra time. But yeah, Forrest had an opportunity. I thought he made a real difference when he came on from the highlights that I've seen. But yeah, Callum McGregor scored an amazing goal. You know, to put Celtic 2-1 up. You know, his goal in the 3-0 game last season was way better than that, but that goal today, but it was still a good goal from McGregor. You know, Rangers, I think, ran out of ideas. I don't think Rangers were in it in extra time. I think Rangers, you know, they did have opportunities throughout this game, but, you know, they're a new team. Danny Rohl, you know, is only in the door. You know, Martin O'Neill is very experienced as well as a manager from his past spell at Celtic. Celtic got the third goal, and it's from Callum Osmond, who replaced Johnny Kenny, who, as I said, was immaculate. You know, from the highlights I've seen, Kenny was really good in this game. Osmond came on, and Osmond was fantastic from the highlights that I've seen. He caused Rangers all sorts of issues. You know, James Forrest actually set up Osmond at one point, you know, where he should have scored. It was really unlucky from Osmond. But Osmond did get the third and decisive goal. Tierney came on for Scarachi. I thought Scarachi was good in this game as well from the highlights I've seen. Defensively, I didn't think he had any issues. I thought he was decent going forward as well. But yeah, KT whipped a really good ball into the box. And there was Osmond, really good finish at the back post to fire it past Butland. And Celtic were 3-1 up in extra time. I think Celtic looked the fitter of the two teams in extra time, and that's what paid the price for Rangers. The referee had a shocking game. You know, I think for both teams, not just for Rangers. I do think Celtic got away with one with the Austin trustee Jack Butland incident. I do think that was a red card. But on the flip side, you know, Celtic Rangers got away with one with the offside goal, and they also, you know, were very fortunate they weren't further behind because Jack Butland, despite his mistake, did make a few good saves. But Celtic saw it out. You know, Celtic are through to the League Cup final, where they'll play St Mirren, who won yesterday in the other game. So that's the final for next month. Celtic St Mirren. Martin O'Neill, will he still be here for that? I don't know. You know, Martin O'Neill did say open up to the possibility of staying longer if needs be. But I do think Celtic will get a new manager in, you know, who's for now, you know, not for the past. You know, Martin, I'm so glad that he got the win today, but he can't get the job full time, I think. Because I just think, you know, he knows he's not the same Martin O'Neill as he was 20 years ago, you know, and what happened, and, you know, it could easily go wrong if he appointed Martin O'Neill permanently. And like we did with Neil Lennon, for example, you know, we brought him back twice and it didn't work. So I don't think it'd be the same for Martin O'Neill, even though I do think Martin O'Neill's a way better manager than Neil Lennon. Look at all the stuff that Martin O'Neill has won over his career, you know, during his career at Celtic. But Celtic got the win, a 3-1 victory over Rangers at Hampden Park. You know, Rangers weren't terrible. They definitely played their part. You know, they had their moments in this game, but so did Celtic. I think Celtic could have scored a few. I think Rangers could have scored a few. I thought Schmeichel made some good saves. I thought Butler made some good saves as well. I thought both goalkeepers played well when they needed to. You know, I think Butland will be disappointed with the mistake that he made from McGregor's goal. But yeah, Celtic won 3-1. They're in the final where they'll play St Mirren, as I said. You know, next up for us is a game against Midtjylland in the Europa League this week. We'll see how that goes. That's a really tough game away as well in Midtjylland. You know, a very good team in the Danish league. We'll see how that goes. But, you know, hopefully we get movement on a manager situation and board changes or anything like that. That'd be good this week. But I'm not going to talk about that today. You know, Celtic got the win. You know, they beat Rangers 3-1, you know, comprehensively, I think, in the end. You know, deservedly so. I think Celtic were the better side over the 90 minutes. And the whole game. I think even though Rangers did play their part, I think Celtic just had that little bit more extra finishing. I think Celtic took their chances. They knew they pressed the ball superbly well from the highlights I've seen. But yeah, that's my reaction to Celtic 3, Rangers 1 in this match reaction. I'll be back on Thursday with a reaction to the Midtjylland game. Any management news, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.